Hello everybody and welcome back to another review by your dude, The Awesome Look. And today we have something rather special for you, namely another scenery. This time we have Drzewiecki Design, I'm sorry Stanislav, I'm butchering the name, Seattle Airports X. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. And let's jump straight in, right? It's available now for FSX all the way to V4, including Flight Sim World. It is available for €29.75 on fspsstore.com. And what you see on the screen is a review copy provided by Drzewiecki Design through FSPS. Also available is Seattle City X, that is sold separately, but that comes highly recommended because it will make the entire thing just look better. And the review of the city scenery you will be able to find on simsmart.org in written form. Other than that, going over the features real quick. So the jetways where they are applicable, obviously, light textures. The whole package is compatible with Orbex, Pilots, Mesh, Taxi to Gate, Seattle, and all that good stuff. And the airports included in that package are KPAE, Paine Field, KBFI, Boeing Field, KRNT, Renton Municipal, and S50, Auburn Municipal. So, what you're getting is 4 very highly detailed airports in the Seattle area, namely all the Boeing factory airports as well as Auburn. And we're going to go through each and every single one of them one by one, starting off with Auburn, as you can see on the screen right now. So, Auburn itself, a relatively small single runway municipal airfield located in King County, as far as I know and as far as I remember. And we can immediately see it is a very nicely done and detailed scenery. I'm panning over here and going down to ground level right now. Ground textures are very good. The underlying photo texture is a little bit low resolution for my liking. However, when you have Seattle City X installed, it makes a lot of sense because it blends very nicely with that. So no real marks against the developer here. Other than that, ground textures as well as the taxiways and all that kind of stuff looks absolutely fantastic. The scenery itself comes loaded with static airplanes, single engine Cessnas, as well as a bunch of other stuff. We have a lot of buildings, a lot of various little bits and bobs around here. So it's a very nicely detailed, small little municipal airport. A very nice little GA field. I will say I don't quite know why they included this in this package, because it seems kind of out of place considering, the other airports in this package. However, it's still a very nice airfield to go, especially if you're, flying GA, if you just want to do something low and slow, if you just want to explore the area with your little, your little Cessna kind of choice, essentially, this is a very good choice. And beyond that, what we can also see when we look a little bit beyond is also a glimpse of the things to come, namely a train that has some 737 airframes on it, which I think is very interesting. So let's slew over here real quick. So you can see lots of static models of trucks and parked vehicles and all kinds of stuff. So very nicely detailed. The usual Drzewiecki design quality when it comes to the scenery. I really, really like their stuff. Also very performance friendly, and that goes for all of them. But here we are with the 737s. You'll see a lot more of these in a bit when we move on to the other airfields, but for now, here's a small glimpse of the 737 frames before they get to Renton to be assembled and to be put together. And you will see these trains, all around the area, basically. If you pay attention to them, you will see those all over the place, essentially. And, yeah, so, not really much more to say about Auburn itself. I mean, it is the smallest and, in my opinion, the most unimportant airport of this entire package. So I would say we are going to leave it at that now and move on over to KBFI Boeing Field for a more detailed and closer look at that. And here we are over at KBFI, or Boeing Field King County International Airport. And as you can see, when we go up, there's already a whole lot more going on, because you have a Boeing flight test center over there with a crap load of statics. You have a massive GA ramp on the other side. You have your trains going on around the area. And you also have the Boeing military segment over there, where we can see a 767 AOX as well as a couple Poseidons. As well as the, if I remember correctly, Museum of Flight. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Where you can also see a bunch of very nicely done static models of the 747, the 787, as well as a Constellation and a bunch of other stuff. As well as the museum itself, which is actually featuring a fully modeled interior. So let's go and slew on over there so I can actually show you. And yes, it is the Museum of Flight, as you can see. And if we dive in here, you can already see a fully modeled interior of the museum itself, which I think is really, really cool. Granted, it is relatively low resolution, but at the same time, what did you expect? I think this is fantastic. I think this is absolutely superb. You won't get that with, you know, many other sceneries of that level, that you get like the entire interior of the museum modeled. And more than that, also the airports here have the delivery customer centers and all that kind of stuff. The interiors of that are modeled as well, which I'm going to show you once we get to that. And on the outside area here, we have the 787, the Concorde, a Constellation, or a Super Constellation even, a Boeing Twin, a Skyraider, I think, an F5, as well as the original 747-100. All very, very well done, modeled to a very nice degree. As well as a myriad of parked vehicles around the entire area. In general, I have to say this blends extremely nicely, obviously, with a Seattle City X, which is installed, as you can see in the distance. It is definitely installed. And like I said, you will find a written review of the city itself on simsmart.org in the near future. So, let's drop down here and move ourselves over to the Boeing flight test ramp to get some more eye candy going while we're zooming here over the GA ramp. And also, I like to point out the markings on the airport itself, all the text on the taxiways, all the airport signs and everything is perfectly readable. It's very crisp, it's very sharp, it's all extremely nice looking, as you would expect from a Drzewiecki design, because that's just what they do. They do high quality stuff, and it definitely shows. I would even go as far as to say that this is even higher in its visual quality department than New York airports. However, I did not review New York airports, so I'm not going to give a verdict on that. However, instead, I'm going to just show you around this place now. So, we're coming up on the Boeing ramp here, on the Boeing flight test ramp, and we can already see a metric ton of 737s of all shapes and sizes, with regular winglets, with the split scimitar winglets. We can see a bunch of primered ones that are not painted yet. We can also see a bunch of 787s further down the line. So it's all very, very well done and very well detailed. We have people standing around the area. We have cars. We have vehicles. Everything done to a very nice level of detail. It's all very, very nice to look at, and very nice to just slowly taxi and walk around the place and have a good look at everything. And we can already see the SOD integration, or at least part of it, namely the 737, I believe, a delivery center over here, which has a fully modeled interior, upstairs and downstairs. So let's head inside there and take a good look at that. And we can already see, again, there's people modeled inside, there's Boeing advertisements, obviously, you know, TV screens and all that, as well as the lounge area upstairs, where you can have a good look at your soon-to-be-delivered airplane, if you are present here for an airplane delivery. As well as some chairs, you know, the usual amenities. And all in all, very well done. I really like it. It adds a nice little touch to the whole thing. A very nice little flair. Modeling and texturing is excellent. Really nothing to complain here, as far as that goes. Moving out to the ramp again, we have a bunch of 787s, some of which are in the Boeing house livery and are not painted in any airline colors. The wonderful, wonderful Dreamliner, as well as the main hangar over here. Certification testing, flight testing happening here. We have some de-icing trucks and all of that. And in the back, more 737s, more airplane components. Here's some engine cowlings and engine components, as well as some other bits and bobs. I mean, it is a factory airport, so you would expect that, there's lots of factory bits and bobs lying around and a lot of factory stuff going on. And that's in general a very important and very nice little detail about these airports, and that is that the level of detail represents a very well lived in and working kind of feel. What I mean by that is that it all feels very active, it all feels very working, very just, I don't know, it's very alive, basically. Just the whole thing just feels very, very alive, very busy, and very going on. And there are, of course, some stands left for you, so if you want to do your own 737 customer acceptance flights or your own 737 test flights, you can do that. Every airport has a couple of parking spots free for you to use, of course, so they thought about that. Moving over to the GA ramp to have a bit of a closer look at that. Again, everything is modeled to a very nice detail. The reading and the writing on the textures and the textways is all very, very clear and very superb. Very nice and easy to read. And I just want to give you some, some nice little shots here so you get an idea of what it all looks like. I want to pan around the place and just show it off, because it's kind of the only really sensible way to do a review of this. It's just to pan around and fly around the place and just look at things. I mean, it is scenery. There's not much else to explain. There's not much going on with systems. Over there, we have some helicopters standing around on the far side of the GA ramp. We can also see the Seattle Harbor in the distance. Again, Seattle City X is installed here as well, blending all very, very nicely. I will say, although the airports themselves, as well as the city, will work standalone, you do not need either. You can use them separately. I would highly, highly recommend you do get both, simply because everything just blends together much, much nicer as compared to default. I found that without City X installed, I had some misplaced parked cars, particularly on that ramp over there where you can see that lone 737 standing outside. I had some misplaced cars over there and things just didn't look as good. However, all of that was fixed once I actually installed City X itself. So while the two are not dependent of each other, they are most certainly built on one another. So it is definitely advisable to have both. And if you do have both, the final picture that you are represented with is just nothing short of spectacular. Especially if, like me, you're interested in, flight test operations and all that kind of stuff. This package of airports will definitely provide you with that. Now, let's slew over to the military ramp and give you a short look at that before we move on over to Renton Municipal. And then finally to Paine Field. This is going to take a minute. I'm going to slew over there now. And while we're doing that, I will also have to say, very performance friendly. I think I mentioned that before, but I'm not noticing any kind of severe performance impact, even with the city installed. And I would also like to note that there is going to be an update for this airport package very soon, a payware update to version 1.1, which is going to add Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, KSEA. That is currently not in the package, but it will be very soon. Again, that's going to be, I think, a €10 upgrade in order to get that once that is available. And once that is available, I will do an updated review of Seattle Airport itself on a standalone basis. Here we have the military ramp, so you can see there's a bunch of P-8 Poseidons as well as a 767 AWACS, I think for the Japanese Air Force, if I'm not entirely mistaken, being parked here. And in general, just, Boeing military. Boeing Defense, they obviously dabble in that as well every now and again. And of course, that is very much separate from the civilian area. So even if you do have your PMBG P-8 Poseidon, you can do some flights with that out of here as well. There's some parking space available for you. It's all very, very good. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on over to Renton Municipal Airport and have a good look at that, shall we? And here we are now at Renton Municipal Airport, over on the other side of the bay. And can you guess what airplane is being made here? I will give you a hint. It's the 737. So here we are now at Renton Municipal Airport, the beating heart of the 737 production line. And as you can see, like immediately 1,000,001 737s. Again, in all manner of shapes and sizes, painted, unpainted, primers, whatever else, Poseidons, everything is present here. As well as, again, a very high level of detail for all the various hangars and GA ramp over here. Very tiny, nestled in between all of those massive 737s. Even more 737s on the other side, and even more when we go back to the other side and take a look at the, quite frankly, the very majestic production hall for the 737, which does have a fully modeled interior. You will also see that at PAE later. But let's take a look at the assembly line over here. We have the tower. Again, fully modeled interior for the tower as well. So if you wish, you can go inside and have a good look at the controllers and how they do their things and how they do their job. They even modeled the displays and everything. I don't think that's the right airport map necessarily, but, you know, whatever. Not a big deal. It's all showing the same thing, but hey, you know. No real marks against the developer there, in my opinion. It just adds to the immersion. And here we have, again, the beating heart of the 737 production line. Again, you know, we see a couple Maxes. We see a 700, an 800, a 900, unpainted, painted, all different airlines and operators presented here, as well as a tiny little seaplane base, which I didn't even know existed. Apparently, Renton has a small seaplane base attached to it, which I think is very interesting. So let's have a look at that here for a minute. We can see a caravan. No, actually, that's a turbine otter, I think, a turbo otter. Over here we have a regular otter or a beaver. I'm not entirely sure. Please don't hate me if I get it wrong. And out on the water, we have another beaver/otter, which I can never tell the two apart, unfortunately. It's a Kenmore, so it's a beaver, I want to say. Either way, the party piece of this particular airport is certainly the 737 assembly line, which we're going to have a look at now in the reverse order, actually. So this is where the assembled frames come out. You can see one over here as well already. And again, you can see like a bunch of just objects and clutter and just things you would use at an airport plant, essentially. Very nice lift-in feel, very active feel, very just like, you know, working airport kind of look that goes for the entirety of the entire package, essentially. So let's move around here and take a look inside the 737 assembly line. As we can see, there's already a bunch of them here lined up for us to take a look, as well as a good bunch of unfinished airframes over on the little plateau area here. So very, very nicely done. Lots of people, models of people. The texturing inside the hangar is also very, very nice in my opinion. It gives it a really nice sense of depth and actually what's going on in a gigantic hall like that, which is very, very cool. I like that quite a lot. And we're going to have a similar experience, only a lot bigger, when we move over to Paine Field, which we'll do next. And also, I mean, how can you not? How can you not like that? Gigantic 737 MAX 8 painted on the doors. There's one on here as well, although the doors are ajar, so you can't experience it in its full glory. But again, Renton Municipal Airport, where the 737 is born, and I believe also the 767, if I'm not entirely wrong. Although they may also be built over in Paine Field. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that. No delivery center here, so no modeled interior for a delivery center. The delivery center is going to be at Paine Field and at Boeing Field. And we're going to have a good look at the one at Boeing Field as well, because that is also very, very impressive. But with that, that pretty much covers the general area around Renton Municipal Airport and the 737 facility, or the main facility. And we're going to leave you with a nice shot of the 737 flight test line. And I will talk to you again in a second when we move on to the final party piece of the scenery, namely KPAE, Paine Field. So I will see you in a second once again. And here we are back again for the final time to what only can be described as the final boss of airports, Paine Field, KPAE, the Boeing Candyland, and as you can see, all the Boeing heavies are present. 747, 777, 787, just everything is there. We have the massive hall over there, which we'll take a look at in a minute. All the surrounding research and development facilities, all the surrounding just infrastructure that is required for an operation like Boeing. This is most certainly the absolute party piece of the scenery, and also the scenery that I like the most out of all of them, I'm gonna be honest. This is nothing short of spectacular, just the amount of just stuff they have on there, which I know is realistic. I mean, you know, it's just, it's mind-boggling just how much junk there is, essentially, and how much, you know, going on work in progress there is, as you can see here as well. So let's head on over the final assembly and flight testing line to the delivery center and then onwards to the assembly hangar. Coming down here, we have a couple 747s over here, a couple 787s, as well as a couple 777s, all in various stages of completion, or painted or not painted, depending on what it is. And I will also say I spotted a little bit of an inconsistency with this scenery, because I think that our Polish friends are living in the future. Because as far as I know, this doesn't exist yet in the real world. However, I still think it's rather funny that they have decided to model it anyway. I rather like stuff like that. I mean, who cares if it's not realistic, right? It's still cool. It's still cool to see stuff like that, you know, things to come in the future, essentially. Next to British Airways bird, next to an unpainted bird, in front of the customer delivery center, which is right in front of us here, as well as a bunch of assorted 787s, you know, United, Polish Airways, British Airways, American, LAN, Hanian Airways, and all sorts of other stuff. So let's take a look inside the delivery center, the main delivery center, which of course we can do. There's some lovely greenery in there as well. And let's have a look around. So there's a nice little speaker's table, essentially, for when you want to give a speech as the airline CEO to your employees. You can do that right here in a very lovely environment. And then when you look outside, obviously this is where your airplane would be parked when you are picking it up for delivery. And yeah, it's all done in a very nice level of detail. Again, so jetways, of course, if you're so inclined. You will have those available to you, of course. No upstairs area, but yeah, no, it's all done in very, very nice detail. It's all done to a very high quality, a very high level of quality. I keep repeating myself, I know, I'm sorry. I don't know, I very much like it. You can see the offices in here, the various delivery offices, basically, where you would sign the paperwork and all that kind of stuff. It's all nicely presented here. Moving on, out over the ramp again. Again, let's have a look at the texture quality on the taxiways and stuff. It's just superb. That is one that's consistent across all the airports. Like the ground texturing and stuff is all excellent. If I haven't mentioned it already, which I believe I have, so I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself. And yeah, let's look at the freight ramp over here. The only thing that I haven't spotted yet is a Dreamlifter, sadly. Yeah, that would be the only thing that would make this even better if they had a static model of the Dreamlifter standing around with the tail open or something like that. That would be kind of cool. But instead, we get something equally impressive, namely an AN-124, which is supposedly delivering some Boeing parts. I don't know if that's something that happens in real life, I don't know, but it's nevertheless pretty cool. So I think this is where the Dreamlifter would usually park, over here. You can see the special unloading vehicles for the Dreamlifter here, where they would drive it up to the tail and then just unload the segments as they come out of the airplane, essentially. And then they store them in here. before they transport them over to the main assembly line, which is really, really nice. It's a very interesting process to watch in real life, actually. Very, very interesting to see how Boeing have decided to solve that issue, essentially. So yeah, Dreamlifter Operations Center. Sadly, no Dreamlifter to be seen. Very, very sad that wasn't included. However, I will not give the scenery negative marks because they didn't include the Dreamlifter. I will promise you that. Don't worry about that. Now moving over back here to the smaller assembly facilities, probably avionics or research and development that's going on back there. Also, massive, massive parking area. Of course, again, just a ton of cars and things and stuff standing around. And over there, we have something very interesting, which I'm going to show you once we move ourselves over there. It's going to be just a minute. If the ground textures appear to be a little bit blurry, I think I would excuse that because that is my system. That is not the scenery. I like to stress that that is not the scenery, but my system. So please excuse me on that. But what we have over there is something rather peculiar, namely what seems to be an airframe stress testing rig of some sort for the 787. So I don't really know what this is for. I would assume just life cycle testing, like movement testing or something like that. But that is a very interesting little, just random little tidbit that I have found while just browsing around the area. As well as a bunch of just parts and bits of 747-800s, or Dash 8s, essentially, lying around over there, as well as a couple 787 components. It's a very interesting part storage over there. And just very interesting, like, test rig, I assume is what that is. Just a flight control or flight surface test rig of some sorts. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So, leaving that behind and moving on over to the big building, we're gonna have a look inside the main assembly hall in all the stages that the airframes go to, or go through, when they are being assembled. Good thing is the rear door is open, so we're gonna have easy access to take a look inside the heart, the literal heart of Boeing. We can already see some assembly rigs up here, some scaffolding, and then when we move inside here, we can see a bunch of 747-8s being assembled and put together. One has currently its fuselage joined together, as well as its wings attached, as you can see here. All the jury rigging and stuff is on the wings. Over here we have one that has its engines already fitted, with a catering truck of some sort attached to it, probably just avionics equipment and stuff like that going in. And again, just various stages of 747 production and completion. And this actually helps to very much illustrate just how big this building actually is. When we move down here, we move down to sort of human level, or, you know, human height, basically. It just helps to just give you a sense of scale of just how vast and massive this building actually is, because it is just mind-bogglingly large. It's just, yeah, I can't even put it into words just how massive this is. I think it's the largest building in the world by volume and mass or something like that. Pretty sure. In here we have some 747 nose segments, as well as a tail segment, looks like. And again, various 747 bits in various stages of completion and various stages of manufacturing. So all those components are being made here and then assembled here as well. It's only the 787 parts and wings, I think, that are flown in. Everything else, I think, is actually being completely made over here. So moving on to row number 3, we have more 747s being put together. Still just very impressive. I mean, I could spend hours just looking around and just looking at stuff and just gawking at how amazing it all looks. Even like the engine weights, you know, to put the wing in its correct position for mounting. They have like these engine weights which weigh exactly as much as the engine would, in order to just, you know, be able to put it all together correctly so it all lines up and it all fits. Just like little things like that. It's just amazing to me. And Drzewiecki have captured that extremely, extremely well. So kudos for them, or kudos to them for that, because I think it's just spectacular looking. It just absolutely is. Then over here we have the 787 line, or one of the 787 lines, all just a bunch of white 787s. Again, in various stages of completion. And again, just giving you a nice little look of just how everything is done. How everything is put together. And then just some... the wing spar creation machine over here. This is where the wings are made, if I remember correctly. They cut those out and put those together over here on these machines. And then on the other side, I think we have more 787, yes, and a bit of 777 actually. So here we have some 777 assembly, my personal favorite. Some mighty 777s being put together here. On this side of the line. And again, just everything is full with clutter and objects and cowlings and just bits and bobs, and it's just, I love it. It's heaven. For somebody as detail-oriented as me, this airport in particular is just absolute heaven. Which is why I like it the most out of all of them. I'm pretty sure. I mean, and then over here we have even more 787 components being put together and being fitted. Even though that container says 777, but hey, you know, reuse parts. And shipping containers as well. So, that is PAE, or the main Boeing assembly hall at PAE. There's so much more to see, which I can't really capture adequately in a review like this because, you know, time constraints and all of that, but it is just an absolutely gorgeous scenery. The level of detail is phenomenal. I'm amazed by it. Like, together, paired with the city, with Seattle City X, I think this is probably one of their best products yet. I'm willing to say this is probably one of their best products yet. So, as far as that goes, do I recommend this product? Yes, absolutely do. I will absolutely recommend you this product. And I will go one step further, and I will recommend you both products because they just work together so incredibly nicely. Mostly because they have been built together and then separated after the fact, but still, you get the idea. So, if you are looking for your own Boeing factory / flight test / whatever experience, I could just wholeheartedly recommend this package. It is absolutely phenomenal. And Drzewiecki, I'm sorry again, Stanislav, I will never get your name right. But still, they have just delivered amazing quality work. I am absolutely stunned by it. I love it. I hope they do more like that in the future. I would love for them to do maybe Toulouse at some point, or even Hamburg for Airbus and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is great. As well as Seattle City X itself. I love that one as well, even though I'm not reviewing it, but I can tell you I love that one as well just as much because they put just as much effort and detail into it. So yeah, Seattle Airports X, available now from FSPS and Drzewiecki Designs directly and from any other outlet. 29.75 euros. Again, this was a review copy provided to us by FSPS, systemsmart.org. And yeah, I will see you next time. Have a good day.